Hello, and welcome to the Line Rider community's top 10 tracks of 2018. This top 10 list was chosen by 6 judges, comprising of volunteers and some invitees within the Line Rider community. These tracks are not ranked 1 to 10, but are rather a group of 10 tracks that we felt stood out the most this year. Trigger warning: this is not a compilation of tracks. If you want to watch the tracks without commentary, feel free to click on the playlist in the description to give the creators the traffic that they deserve. The individual lists of each judge will be given at the end of the video, along with an explanation of the judging method. Okay, let's get into it. Conundrum, okay. This track was an instant hit. Capitalizing on the 10-point canon technique brought to the community by Jealous Cloud, Conundrum managed to make a track that was both technically astounding and entertaining to the casual viewer. He took the initiative to create his own program to streamline the often finicky process of making 10-point cannons, which allowed him to achieve the crazy levels of precision seen in the track. The highlight of this comes when Conan manages to make Bosch come off the sled but appear to still be riding it, as Bosch's head slowly turns for comic effect. Step Inside by Tymyshoelace. Step Inside, whilst not being one of the most coherent tracks on the list, is nonetheless one of the most impressive from a technical point of view. It is the first track where much of the animation is generated by using a custom macro program. This program would draw in every frame according to Tymyshoelace's specifications. Through this method, and also many tedious hours of hand-drawn work, he was able to produce some of the most impressive animations ever achieved in Line Rider history.
Chuck, it's Marvin! Your cousin, Marvin Barry! You know that new sound you looking for? Well, listen to this!
Ruby Falls by Rabbit Squirrel. Ruby Falls, where to begin? This track kicked off a we've begun to term the year of the manual, and oh boy did it do it in style. Rabbit beautifully matches the feel and intensity of the song, switching effortlessly from theme to theme. Sometimes Bosch is ponderous and relaxed, sometimes playful, even cocky, and other times incredibly intense. This track was beautiful and engaging to watch, from start to finish. And it's aged well. A lot of tracks can quickly become lost to the so-called march of progress we tend to see in Line Rider, but this track will never lose that golden feeling that keeps viewers coming back for more. Release Me by Andrew Hess. Release Me is aptly named. It is an escapist track that brings the viewer into a trance-like state. Drawing inspiration from some of Rabbit Squirrel's recent works, such as This'll Destroy You and Ruby Falls, this track transports you to another place. Watching this track is like being massaged. It is an extremely relaxing and gentle experience. Even the more intense sections of the track are meditative rather than jarring. From a technical standpoint, the manuals don't match up to the standard set by some of the other tracks on this list. However, frame-perfect excellence is far from the aim of this track. Rather, it is to release you for just a couple of minutes from your daily cares. Andrew is a new and particularly creative track maker, so be sure to go subscribe for 2019. iPie, Falling to the Beat. iPie is one of those guys that strive for perfection and pushes the envelope. If athletics has Roger Bannister, we have iPie. We've had a plethora of new techniques discovered in Line Rider the last year, but few have gone back to basics to reinvent the wheel, and that is what iPie did with Falling to the Beat. iPie's obsessive attention to detail is one of his best assets as a creator, as it results in a frame-perfect track. Smooth is a term we often use when describing pretty manual technique, but iPie is a step beyond this. His manuals are both smooth, perfectly balanced, and dynamic. As for reinventing the wheel, he actually discovers new positions that Bosch can form into during manuals, which is crazy, seeing as people have been making manual tracks for over 10 years. The music is well implemented in this track, and complements the theme of effortless perfectionism. The highlight of the track is the beautiful Cuphead-style animation, which iPie takes a step further, actually animating a hand drawing a track that Bosch appears to ride. Whilst this had been hypothesized in the past, no one before iPie had actually ever implemented this, so this was a big jump in terms of what was thought to be possible with hand-drawn animation. The idea of creating an unseen artist drawing the track is also just about the most meta thing I've ever seen in Line Rider. This track was a big surprise, and turbocharged the sort of manual renaissance we've seen this year. Toivo, Carnival of Rust. After Falling to the Beat came out, I thought I'd be lucky if ever to see another manual track taken to such a high level, both technically and experimentally, but Toivo sure surprised me. Carnival of Rust is a technical marvel. It's a rarity to ever see manual technique executed to such a high level, but Toivo makes it look easy. Every time I watch this track, the back of my neck prickles, as he effortlessly recycles complex low-speed manuals, always upping the ante in response to the increasing tension of the music. Building on some of the elegant concepts we saw in his earlier work, Sleeping Sun, this track features ghostly, unpressured manuals that loop and sweep ever onwards, even recycling themselves with effortless grace. Toivo experiments with precarious manual positions that, despite their complexity, are nonetheless smooth. This complexity makes it all the more impressive when Bosch suddenly doubles back and recycles the track again, using those same precarious yet perfectly stabilized positions. Finally, we have the drop in the music, where to match the tension, Toivo displays some highly pressured and bizarre manuals that we have rarely if ever seen displayed elsewhere. Alpha Leonis. Guess Who's Back? Guess Who's Back by Alpha Leonis was a surprise in more ways than one. In a year dominated by manual tracks, Alpha's Quirk release was a throwback to earlier years, practically retro these days. Alpha's track is nearly 4 minutes of post-ham wackiness, an attempt to bring back the intense Quirk-focused culture of the past. Certainly the nostalgia is real for some of the older members of the community, but hopefully this track can serve as both a window into the past and maybe as inspiration for the next generation of would-be Quirkers. iPie, Gypsy. iPie makes a return to this list once again with Gypsy. The coherency that Falling to the Beat lacked is exemplified in Gypsy. Gypsy from start to finish is well balanced and executed, not just in terms of the techniques used, but also thematically and atmospherically. The song choice works well for a recycling track, as it calls for an even style, speed, and execution of technique, which is particularly important in a track using granules. As with Falling to the Beat, iPie's level of skill is astonishing. Of course, every creator picks holes in their own creations, but for the rest of us, Gypsy is unbelievable. This track is by far one of the smoothest and most impressive examples of integrated granules, manuals, and hidden quirk that has ever been created. One of the things that particularly amused me about Gypsy is that iPie uses a sort of sleight of hand, or perhaps sleight of track, to trick you into thinking that the track recycles itself more times than it actually does. Towards the end, he actually copy and pastes an entire section of track to a new area, and then proceeds to recycle its shape, with most of the audience none the wiser. This ingenuity is always great to see in Line Rider, and is a common theme with the tracks on this list. Rabbit Squirrel, Celie. Every now and then we get that one track that breaks the mold, something totally unique and bizarre that is hard to categorize. Celie by Rabbit Squirrel is that track. Technique-wise, Rabbit sticks with regular flat sled, but it is the art that stands out. Taking inspiration from some of the beautiful illusions Andrew Hess created in Bug Thief, Rabbit takes it a step further with this track, as crazy background visuals become the theme rather than just highlights. Bizarre music is matched by a bizarre landscape of shapes and harsh black bars. This track is a trip, and the first time I watched it I was left speechless. Because it's just so out there. I mean, when have you ever seen anything like this in Line Rider? Of course, Rabbit doesn't take sole credit for the project. As well as taking creative direction from Sharon Pack, they brought in Conundrum to create the code that generated the crazy background visuals. Conundrum also created a new version of LineRider.com that made creating and layering animation both more efficient and no longer speed dependent. This collaboration is one of the most interesting paradigm shifts in track making that I've seen in a long time, so thank you Rabbit & Co for keeping it fresh. I'm sure whatever you produce next will be equally enthralling. Sheldon, wonder if you...
It doesn't play so yet.
Okay.
Never thought a Line Rider track could make you cry? You were wrong. If Ruby Falls kicked off the year of the manual, then this track certainly ended it. Wonder if You by Sheldon is a multi-layered masterpiece. Sheldon constructed the track as a novel way of proposing to his girlfriend Olivia, with the track depicting some of their most memorable moments carefully drawn into the track at just the right points. The track itself is brilliant, on both a technical and emotional level. We have the soft music that hits you right in the heartstrings, then we have the gentle manual style that flawlessly matches the music, showcasing extremely precise, complex, and well-timed techniques. Sheldon makes the track look effortless, but anyone watching can see he put his heart and soul into it, which makes it all the more impactful emotionally. The idea that someone took that much time, especially in a medium as limited as Line Rider, to show how much they really care about and appreciate another is hard-hitting and very emotional to watch. It makes the track far more valuable than the ring itself. Finally, we have the icing on the cake. The face cam. Sheldon managed to record Olivia watching the track with him, and seeing the stages of emotion and realization dawn as the track winds up to the proposal itself is all the more cathartic for having watched the track along with her.
I loved you from the very first day I met you, and I'll love you till the very last day I have with you. Olivia, will you marry me?
Yeah.
So, that's the top 10. Now here's how the judging worked. First I put out a general invitation asking for volunteers. I then invited some other community members to round out the judging panel. We ended up with 8 members. One member, Conundrum, asked to only be part of the panel in an advisory capacity, so we ended up with 7 initial judges. As the year progressed, I would check in with the group to see if they were keeping up to date with all the Line Rider releases. We had a Google document where each member put their personal top 10, which you are seeing now. At the end of the year, we then collated the results to see which track had been mentioned multiple times. These tracks were then put into a Google poll, and the judges were asked to vote for their top 10 out of that list. A further option was added underneath to list one additional track that a judge may have thought was overlooked. The results of that poll gave the top 10 list you have just seen. The judges had a hard time actually choosing, because we just had so many great tracks this year. This is reflected in some of the personal top 10s you have already seen. Many had more than 10 tracks on their lists, which is possibly why the preliminary list still ended up comprising 17 tracks. But using the poll, we were then able to get a top 10 based off of the voting for those nominations. So, what were the limitations? This was the first year I've done this, and I think it turned out quite well, but there were certainly limitations that could be improved upon. I think perhaps the panel could have been slightly larger. The trouble is finding people actually willing to commit themselves to the task. This year we actually had one judge that actually ended up not voting at all, which is why there are only 6 individual lists instead of 7. Another problem is judges not staying with a final list of 10, which has the possibility of unfairly influencing the number of nominations for each track. To prevent this in future, only the first 10 tracks on a judge's list will be considered. Another limitation is subjective bias. Line Rider judging is all based on subjectivity. There is no objective best track, and everyone judging is swayed by their inherent biases. Therefore, balancing out the judging panel based on taste is important in judge selection. I think we had a pretty balanced top 10 this year, but this is still an issue to keep in mind. Another problem was that the judges were all aware of each other's top 10 as we entered them on a central Google document. This allowed for the possibility of conformity or people becoming influenced by others, which is something I would change in future so that all lists are private. The final limitation is that 10 is just not enough. If I do this again, it would definitely be a top 20. So, what were your favorite tracks? Do you agree with the list? Comment below and share your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.